Okay, welcome back to Tradecraft for Life. Today we're going to go over this Wolves in Finance video on Huachuca. So I didn't expect to wake up to this Sunday morning, but I'm going to do everything I can to put this out as quickly as I can with a lot of good context into it, which I know I'll have to do a couple different videos, and I might do this out of a specific order, so you might see a few cuts here and there. But I am filming all of this on Sunday, and I will film it all to give you all the context about Fort Huachuca. I am a Fort Huachuca baby. I have spent many years there. I will go into stuff about the Candlewood Suites later. What the base is. I will even take you through some of the base and what the base used to have on it and what they don't have anymore. Locations that have shut down, so on and so forth. So join me on this beautiful Sunday morning.
I've been reporting on Charlie Kirk's death, and something that keeps coming up is a military base in Arizona called Fort Huachuca. I've been taking a closer look and have uncovered what looks like a lot of fraud. There's one question about Charlie Kirk's death that I don't think anyone has asked yet. How was it paid for? Where did the money come from to pay for the assassination? Now, if you believe the FBI story that it was a lone gunman with a .30-06, that would have required no money. That was just one crazy guy. But no reasonable person believes that Charlie Kirk was killed with a .30-06. That means that Tyler Robinson was working with someone else. And that means that someone was getting paid. Now, anyone who's been looking into the story knows it is more likely that a lot of people were involved. There was a strange plane circling overhead. People reported seeing drones in the air. There was the old man, George Zinn, who falsely confessed to be the shooter as some sort of decoy. It was reported that while he was receiving medical treatment, George Zinn told multiple people that he was expecting to be paid for his actions. Then there was the transgender boyfriend, who has practically disappeared from sight. There was a bunch of people put in charge before the incident, including the FBI special agent Robert Bowles. He is the guy who reported on finding the .30-06.
This morning I can tell you that we have recovered what we believe is the weapon that was used in yesterday's shooting. It is a high-powered bolt-action rifle. That rifle was recovered.
I know we haven't gone over a bunch of different things yet. There's a lot we have to go over when it comes to HUMINT, but you have to pay attention to the verbs and the words that these people use. Like this guy right now. Listen to the tense. I'm going to rewind it a second. But listen to the tense, listen to the words he's using, and he's choosing them exactly that way so he can run away from them later on if anyone picks it out.
In a wooded area where the shooter had fled yesterday's shooting.
Guy who reported on finding the .30-06.
This morning I can tell you that we have recovered what we believe is the weapon that was used in yesterday's shooting. It is a high...
Believe. So he can run away from it if somehow it didn't work out to be the weapon. Because they can still run away from it if they want to. They'd be like, oh, no, we just recovered that, and it has nothing to do with it. We're sorry. We apologize that we thought this random weapon somewhere had something to do with it, or didn't have anything to do with it. They use words like that very carefully.
That rifle was recovered in a wooded area where the shooter had fled.
There are indications that this was a full-scale military-style operation. That costs a lot of money. We are talking an enormous amount of money. You have to pay for the people, the equipment, the planning.
And you can't say that that's conspiratorial, because I have actually trained in using words and verbs this way. I know it's a thing, and it's a thing we teach some of the best out there. Am I saying what he's doing is on purpose? No. It could actually be completely on accident, and he's just trained that way, so that's just the way he naturally talks. That could be an explanation. There could be other explanations for it too.
Training, and not just for the event itself. You have to pay for the cover-up that went on for months. Now, I'm aware that after Charlie Kirk's death, Turning Point raised a lot of money. There were several large money transactions sent to Turning Point. But that was after the assassination. Where did the money come from before? We are talking about assassins. I don't know how much you know about accounting for criminal organizations, but assassins do not accept credit. You cannot purchase an assassination on your American Express card. That money had to come from somewhere. I'm going to tell you where I think it came from. But first, I want to start by putting in context why this is so important.
This isn't a true statement. Anyone who does any line of work like that, if they got a credit card that was filled with $50 million, or that's a little extreme for a credit card, but it was filled with maybe a couple $100,000, you telling me they wouldn't accept that? You're telling me they wouldn't accept something that gave them a leg up? See, I get he understands finance, but he doesn't understand the other world he's talking about. I'm not saying I'm great with numbers, but my understanding of numbers wouldn't go that extreme the way he's going extreme with it.
This month, the head of the FBI, Kash Patel, said this. Are you convincing what you've seen that this one shooter is the one guy? Well, I got to be careful on comment on the evidence. As you know, it's a state court proceeding. It's a state murder charge. And as you know, you've covered this longer than everybody else. Those take a long time, if not years, to adjudicate a murder case. And that's what's going on. My job at the FBI is to ensure that they have the evidence that they need from my agents that were on the ground that collected it. And we provided it to them. And we'll continue to work with them and take our direction from the state prosecutors. At the end of the day, Charlie was my friend, a dear, dear friend. The worst thing that could happen is we somehow taint the evidence of the jury pool by making a statement or commenting and stylizing the evidence, and that ends up in a mistrial or even an acquittal. So what I'm guarding against is that, and we will continue to provide support.
He says it is a state court and the state police are investigating.
Look at that face. Just the way he's squinting at us right now. You know, and it's funny because people get these positions, like director of the FBI, let's say other positions, they're high-level positions, and they seem like decent people, and then they get put in that position. It's either the power, or it could be a combination of things, and they come out, and they turn into total douchebags. I can't remember one that hasn't been a douchebag. It's just amazing to me how we also don't try to replace these people. Like Pedo Protector Barbie, and you gotta watch Valhalla to get that one. But I do like that one. That was a good one, Valhalla. There is a take that I can actually see, and it comes from Andy Frisella, and I appreciate his take.
And that ends up in a mistrial or even an acquittal. So what I'm guarding against is that, and we will continue to provide support.
He says it is a state court and the state police are investigating. This is Kash Patel publicly stepping back and saying the FBI is no longer involved. This is a local state matter. I find this statement shocking. A political assassination is absolutely within the FBI's jurisdiction. For him to say this is a state matter and he's going to let them deal with it is absurd. If Charlie Kirk was his personal friend, why doesn't he take personal charge over the investigation and make sure that justice is done? The problem with the state police and the state prosecutors is that they are more susceptible if there's corruption within the state of Utah. Let's imagine that there are a few powerful people in the state of Utah.
I'm going to point this out because this actually is something I probably should have talked in my anger video that I did yesterday, and maybe I'll clip this in there. What they are doing is trying to gaslight you. I say gaslight because I can't think of the other word off the top of my head. No, they're trying to gaslight you and make you angry and make it look like you have no hope. Because when you're angry and you're frustrated, and you're jumping from event to event, like big event that happened to big event, you can't really pay attention to all the crap that's going on. Like, how many of us forgot about the fraud up in this little place up here? How many of us haven't dug in any more into that? Like, okay, well, whatever happened to the Leering Center's paperwork? Did we ever catch that criminal? So I was saying, they're trying to gaslight you into anger. Don't let them gaslight you into anger. You don't have to give in to the anger. Whether it be the bureau, the government, your boss locally, anybody. Who cares? Do not let them gaslight you at all.
Who are somehow involved
I'm just
in Charlie
giving you
Kirk's
crap holes in
If you're a police
finance.
officer with the Utah State Police and you've worked there for a decade, you are more likely to just go along with what the powerful people want because it is good for your career. Same thing with the state prosecutors. Same thing for the state judge. All of these people are susceptible to pressure to screw up the case. This is why it makes sense to have a federal-level FBI investigation. I believe the reason Kash Patel is stepping away is because the White House wants to distance themselves from the investigation because they can see that it is falling apart, and they want to be able to put the blame on the state prosecutors. And I think that is pretty disgusting.
That's crazy to me, that you think that that's what's happening. They came in, they did their part, and then they dipped out, and now they're not doing anymore. And you're saying, well, no, because it's falling apart. They helped it fall apart from the beginning. What are we talking about here? It's not because it's falling apart. It's falling apart because of them. You know, and locally, of course. I'm not catching your drift on that. And they're stepping away. They have stepped away. It's not anything new. Maybe he came out and made it public. He told us deuces like 4 months ago, 3 weeks after it happened.
How can Kash Patel sit there and call Charlie Kirk his friend and not try to figure out the truth about how he was murdered?
I just want to say, that is the most awesome ladies' sports coat I've ever seen in my life. Way to go, Kash.
That is why I'm making these videos. It is up to us, the investigators on the internet, to figure out what happened, because the FBI is telling us that they're not going to do it.
You assume that you can finish an investigation over the internet. You can't, in most cases. There might be a few that you can dig into where you can draw ultimate conclusions from. But most everything, you can't go to the internet and complete everything completely. Unless it's deliberately all put up there. But all the information isn't put out on the internet. They're on private networks and servers in places and locations. As much as we want to say, investigate this, yes, we should. And we should do as much as we can. I'm not saying that. I'm not against it at all. But we can't complete it until we get certain information that's actually not on the literal internet itself. That's not connected to the server of the internet. See, what you have to realize is you have to realize that things are connected differently. I'll do some drawings of it here in a little bit and I'll explain it. Because you have to realize it's not everything is interconnected. That's why it's like a huge thing when someone in the military accidentally connects, let's say, a CyberNet computer to an unclassified channel, because it's putting that entire network at risk. That's why there's big consequences for stuff like that, because it literally puts everything into actually being corrupted or potentially stuff being taken off and you can't track it. So you're not going to finish it. One thing we have to remember, and look, people aren't looking at this with the right mindset because they don't understand the intel investigation side of it. We have been getting new stuff. Guess where we've been getting the new stuff? Candace Owens. I'm not ready to get into her yet because that goes much deeper than that. Because I do think she's putting out some interesting, incredible information. But you also got to look at the other half of that, and no one is. Everyone's literally worshiping at the altar of Candace. And that's when you know the lie is deeper than you ever imagined, because they're automatically trusting one person and throwing everybody else out. It's like a cult following, man. I tell you what. And I'm not even saying I don't like her. But the moment it turns into that, that's when you know that there's something not right and everything is off. And for those of you out there who have been thinking this, you're not alone and you're not wrong. When you take and look at it all from an analytical perspective.
They're stepping back. As someone who believes that truth and justice matters, I think we need to figure out what really happened to Charlie Kirk. And that brings me to Fort Huachuca. On December 18th, Candace Owens interviewed Mitch Snow. He is a military veteran who was randomly at Fort Huachuca looking for his old files. He was there the 2 days before Charlie Kirk's murder. On the evening of September 8th, in the lobby of his hotel, the Candlewood Suites at Fort Huachuca.
Let's just look at this picture right here. I'm not claiming to be a spitting image of physicality. I'm not claiming to be 6'3", 250 pounds like Valhalla. But when I think of retired Green Beret, this never comes to my mind. So we can tell from his picture alone. I know a handful of Green Berets. I will tell you that 95+% of them do not look like this. Even ones that have like limbs that got all jacked up and who are thriving, and some of them have a hard time walking. It's just an indicator there's a lot below all of it. I'm also not trying to fat shame, coming from a fat man. What I am trying to say is this isn't what your average Green Beret looks like. So this tells me that he's going through some mental stuff right now. He's mentally struggling with things. And you're saying, well, you're saying all that off his appearance? How dare you? This is what I was trained on and paid to do. So if you don't like it, click away. I don't care. Say whatever you want. What I am telling you right now is from this and from things that I've heard from him and come out of his mouth and come from other people in his life. And I can't vet it with veracity, any of it. There are red flags all over the place. How do we build lies? I'm probably going to say this 5 or 10 times that we're here. How do we build lies? We give you 85 to 95% truth, and then we put the lie right on top of that, and we mix it in. If you're making scrambled eggs and you're scrambling them together, someone drops a drop of cyanide into there, and you're still mixing it all together, you can't actually go take that drop of cyanide out once it's mixed in. So that means all the eggs are poisoned. You could use water as an example for that. Many different things. And I'm not even saying that it invalidates all intel from stuff when it comes out. But what I'm saying is when you get poison intel mixed in with other intel, you have to remove what you know is good intel and you have to start over. because you can do that with information. But you have to take a step back and you have to say, okay, well, possibly did I get that bad intel because there's more bad intel here, and you need to go back through it. You need to take step by step by step. It's because people don't understand the process. They don't understand what things can happen. And I get it. We all want to jump to the conspiracy. I'm not even saying any of this is a conspiracy. The whole thing that Charlie Kirk was murdered and we don't know by who, that's not a conspiracy. We have an agency telling us certain things, but we know what our eyes and our ears have been telling us too. And it doesn't match up with the story they've been giving us. I'm not saying any of that isn't true. That's all true. And I do apologize for using the word conspiracy, but I have to use it every now and again for people to understand things. I don't like using the term because the term was placed in the agency right after JFK. It was a term before that, and probably way long before even the 50s. But it never came to prominence until JFK. And then it slowly built up after that. And they have used it as propaganda for you to disbelieve everything. Anything they want you to disbelieve, they have used that term. And everybody is, oh, that's a conspiracy as soon as something comes out. So then they just disbelieve it instead of investigating it. I've been guilty of doing it. I don't do it anymore, maybe initially, and then you go look at it. It's fine. You can have an initial judgment and your initial judgment not be right. That's perfectly fine. There's actually nothing wrong with that. But you have to. With conspiracies, you have to look at all the intel and stop buying the game that they're selling you. This is why I don't trust Candace. We're going deep, and I wasn't planning on going deep right now. Where did Tucker Carlson come from? Fox News. Where did they all come from? Well, Candace came from Ben Shapiro. I would have to look into her background to see if she was anywhere else like Fox. I don't think she was, because I just don't keep up with all of them. So we have that. But what are they? That's right. What are they? They're reporters? Okay, can we name a reporter in the last 50 years who hasn't been deceptive to the public? Give me some names. I'm waiting. Unless you know someone individually and they're a low-level person, I could see that. In my anger story I created yesterday, I gave you a story about the early 2000s, about a news station in Portland, Oregon that I went to, and how they just built stories off of what they were told to. Sometimes what they wanted to, and sometimes what the money was telling them to do, which is what they do today still. And no one faults them for going towards the money. But I think a lot of people, until recently, didn't understand that the news was being told what to say most of the time. And sometimes they have the freedom to do something the way they want to. Because, and they allow that because it makes it seem more natural. Because it would be stupid to make them a complete robot most of the time. But they're all reporters, right? Who are a lot of the podcasters that came out recently? What's their background? Their background's from a news agency, a reporter? Because a lot of you are finding out that guys like Tim Pool are a shill. You know, and I don't even see Tim Pool necessarily as a bad guy. But the places he's taken money from, it says a lot about you. Candace's background. What do you know about her? Have you really looked into her? I guarantee you I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. And I don't care. Because I'm not saying she's a complete fraud and liar and stuff. I'm saying I don't trust the background. And you shouldn't either. And then you're going to come out and you're going to say, oh, well, you're Fort Huachuca background and this and that. Well, first of all, most soldiers aren't agency types. If they join the agency afterwards, that would be a different thing. We would be having a different conversation. That would be completely different. The reason why soldiers have been put on you as trustworthy is because most of the time they are. There are bad apples, I'm not saying that. Because they're literally your everyday person who took the next step to do something good and difficult in life. And it's an average citizen. You don't have to be a genius to go become a soldier and do this stuff. I'm not a genius, and I will never claim to be. That's what a soldier is. A soldier is trustworthy. in that sense. So you saying, oh, well, you're an intel soldier, so you have no honesty in you because you came from this place, this Fort Huachuca, that they said was bad. I know there's going to be a bunch of bodies out there emailing me and stuff like that, so I can't take all of y'all. But, like, I would gladly take a bunch of you to Fort Huachuca and give you a freaking tour. I'm not trying to set that up, and I'm not trying to go do that because I don't have authorization to get on the schedule and go do that stuff. But that's an example. I would gladly go do that because it's not what you think it is. Do bad things and weird, crazy meetings happen at military bases? Absolutely. We need to get into that definition of what he called the skiff, which is crazy to me that a Green Beret would say a skiff is something with windows with cardboard or what do you say, tinfoil over the windows? What are we talking about here? This is how you can kind of gauge that he's not mentally stable. Because that average Green Beret, maybe he's not average, I don't know. They know what a freaking skiff is because they have to have a clearance. I would venture to say 100% of Green Berets have been in a skiff. But I don't know. Maybe this guy was the one in a million. I don't have a clue. But let's get into it a little bit more. We'll dig into Candace some more. Because you need to dig into her background. And you're sitting here getting on me. I'm not the one who, like her, who's done Masonic hand signs. And who comes out and tells you she's a Mason and she's a builder of things. This is what she has literally told you. And you've chosen to ignore it? I guarantee you that if I hit anything of truth right now, this video will not take off. Because it has too much truth in it. But she's a literal freaking Mason. Because it's come out of her mouth. I'm not making that allegations. I am not making the allegations that she is a Mason. I am saying this is what she has said. And that's what you want to trust? This is why America's cooked. Because you look right past the stuff that's right in front of your face.
On December 18th, that truth and justice matters. I think we need to figure out what really...
Pay attention to this real quick. Look at the theatrics of all this. I'm not saying in his cutting that's the theatrics. I'm not even saying he's theatric. I don't know who he is. I've not dug into him. I don't have a reason to, so I'm probably not going to.
happened to Charlie Kirk. And that brings me to Fort Huachuca. On December 18th, Candace Owens interviewed Mitch Snow. He is a military veteran who was randomly at Fort Huachuca looking for his old files. He was there the 2 days before Charlie Kirk's murder. On the evening of September 8th, in the lobby of his hotel, the Candlewood Suites at Fort Huachuca, he reports that he saw Erica Kirk. Then the next day, on September 9th, he was at a building on the base and saw a group of high-ranking lieutenant colonels with someone who looked like a congressman. They walked past Mitch Snow as if they were leaving a meeting. Brian Harpole, the head of security for Turning Point, was walking with them. Not only that, they looked like a congressman. He saw Erica Kirk.
First off, I want to say I've never stayed at these Candlewood Suites because they were built in terms of my career recently. That's why when they were saying them, I was like, what in the world are they talking about? So I had to go look it up because it was built probably around the last time I took some serious classes there. And I do want to say is every time I've tried to, when I've moved somewhere PCS'd and I've tried to get a hotel on base, I could literally never get it. And I don't know how many can, unless it is different in 2026. That there's no one doing training at these places. But let's go back and inspect what he said real quick.
He is a military veteran who was randomly at Fort Huachuca looking for his old files. He was there the 2 days before Charlie Kirk's murder. On the evening of September 8th, in the lobby of his hotel, the Candlewood Suites at Fort Huachuca, he reports that he saw Erica Kirk. Then the next day, on September 9th, he was at a building on the base and saw a group of high-ranking lieutenant colonels with someone who looked like a congressman. They walked past Mitch Snow as if they were leaving a meeting. Brian Harpole, the head of security for Turning Point, was walking with them. Not only that, there was another man who looked like Cabot Phillips, who Mitch Snow had seen in the hotel lobby with Erica Kirk the day before. If you do not know who Cabot Phillips is, he's a senior editor at the Daily Wire. There are Instagram posts that show that Cabot Phillips was supposedly in a relationship with Erica before she was married to Charlie Kirk. Photo where Cabot Phillips says, "Yes, we're that couple who gets painting lessons together." Here's another conversation online between Erica Kirk and Cabot Phillips. She says, "Girlfriend," does the same and double taps the photo to like it. Cabot Phillips says, "Former roommate sees picture and smiles at phone." This conversation happened around 10 months before Erica Kirk had her first date with Charlie Kirk.
The problem I have with this, right, is in the military, we have bases that are largely just training bases. And I'm not saying other stuff doesn't happen on them, because it does. But you don't plan the Osama bin Laden raid on the base that they do BUDS training at. You see what I'm saying? We'll use that since they use SEAL Team 6. But you don't plan the Osama bin Laden raid at the headquarters of BUDS training. You plan it in other locations. And you don't even necessarily have to be at your specific home base to actually plan it. That's the beauty of it. Like, you can go to skiffs all over the place. So I'm not even saying that they couldn't have been there to jump on a meeting in a skiff for this reason. But again, even people who were contractors, they were physically contractors. They were actually working on products. So they were almost like a part of the unit in the military. So that's different. But I'm thinking contractors that would come in and talk to you, we wouldn't give them access to crap. So why would we think that these people would come in and be able to have access to crap? They're coming in and they're getting briefed on something in a skiff and this and that. Okay. Do they have the clearance? Send all this information. We have people out there who are watching this who probably have access to go check and see if these people have active clearances, because it will be in the system. It will 100% be in the system if they have clearances, because they need those clearances to go into the skiff. Because if you don't have a clearance going into a skiff, you can't talk about the things that you want to talk about. So you wouldn't even bring them into a skiff, even if the information was at that level, because you can't do it. You cannot bring someone without an active clearance into a skiff. You can, but everything shuts down when you bring someone who isn't cleared for the skiff. Literally, people are shutting off everything and covering everything up because we hire people to come in and clean. That's why they always look for people with clearances to be cleaners, so they don't actually have to go shut everything down. And you can just walk through, and you don't have to escort them and do all sorts of stuff. That's literally why those cleaners get paid a lot of money, because it's so much easier if you don't have to shut everything down. So, Mr. Green Beret, your story still isn't holding up and making sense.
So Mitch Snow is claiming to have seen Erica Kirk and Cabot Phillips at Fort Huachuca on September 8th in the lobby of the hotel, and then he saw Cabot Phillips and Brian Hartwell on September 9th leaving the meeting. And let me just Erica Kirk and Cabot Phillips, Erica's dad, has only 16 friends on Cabot Phillips with pizza tattooed on the inside of his lip. He must really like pizza. Kent Fransve, Erica's dad, has only 16 friends on Facebook.
I'm going to point this out, because when you look at and you do backgrounds on people in Facebook land and social media, when they don't have a whole lot of friends, that's a red flag. That's a red flag that they either created a fake account. Because I know people who are even that old and they don't really use social media, but they have way more than 16 friends. I'm not saying it indicates anything, but I'm saying it's a red flag because of that few of friends.
Phillips and Brian Hartwell on September 9th leaving the meeting. And let me just say that all of this is allegedly. Mitch did not know who any of these people were until after the news broke about Charlie Kirk. And then he was watching the news reports and saying, wait a second.
That's not even your name, bro.
Only 2 days before the murder at Fort Huachuca. Why would Eric?
See, it's because I work the field. I wouldn't give you a fake name. I just not show you my name because I don't really care. Secondly, I know better. I don't need to go change my name 50 times. That's why people who change their name a lot, you should be very skeptical of and who has changed their name a lot. Think about who was flying on a plane with said wife and had a plane sent out to her. Think about that. That dude's changed his name 50 times, and she's associated with him, and they claim to be good friends. Think about that connection right there.
Kirk be at Fort Huachuca with her ex-boyfriend 2 days before Charlie Kirk was murdered. And where is the FBI? Leave a comment down below if you think that this is something that Cash Patel should look into.
I have to stop this because, look, again, this is not wolves and finance thing. But you look at everything that he's lining up. Doesn't it feel like a movie? Seriously. Doesn't it feel like a movie? Like somehow they're putting this movie in front of us. As you can see yesterday, when I went through the 1968 PSYOP handbook from the Army in the anger video that I recorded yesterday, is Hollywood was just starting to integrate into a lot of stuff back then. And in the PSYOP book, they said, hey, we don't have access to this, so we need all these agencies to come help us out. But they did get access to it eventually because the DoD now makes a bunch of movies. And the agency makes TV, news, and movies. This is all open information. It's all available to us out there. So they make all this. And then they create these dramas where people get angry with each other. I've wanted to do a video on this for a long time. And I just haven't yet. But they create these dramas where you have real scenes where you get two people who are angry at each other and they're really fighting. But they created that drama. And it looks real because it is, but it's still a manufactured scene in front of your face. And then everything that's behind the scenes is where it turns around and to be fake. It's theater put in front of you with a disguise, it's masked theater. And that's what it feels like. And it feels like theater because it is. It's not, I'm not saying it's all fake. Don't take that out of it. But it's hard to tell, even for me. It's hard to tell when something is real and something isn't. And that's why you have to look at everything diligently. Because do we think that the blow up between Candace and Ben was real? I think that was probably a real event that happened. But what else behind it could be theatrical? This is how you have to look at everything. And you sit here and you look at me and you're like, how dare you say stuff like that? I am not the one who called myself a mason and did all the hand signs to it and said I'm a builder. I'm a builder of things. And I'm not the one who has a shady marriage to somebody who has a shady background. So you have to take everything into perspective when you look at it. And I'm not trying to crash out on her because I don't disagree with everything that she's saying. I like her. I don't know her, but I do like her for what she's saying and for some of the stuff that she's standing up for. But do I believe all of it? I don't. Nor should you. Nor should you believe everything that I'm saying. You should take everything I say and you should go do your due diligence and dig into it and see if I'm wrong. And a lot of you will go and you'll be like, well, Google told me that this fake theater and this isn't true. And a lot of you will go do that. And that's fine. Whatever. You can go do that. Go believe what Google tells you. Because if that isn't a part of it, you have to dig deeper. You have to realize that there's stuff out there that's put out there for a reason. That we have certain companies built for a reason. That some of these companies are built because they're a long game and a long-term plan of certain agencies. And you say, well, that sounds conspiratorial. Okay, well, you can take that claim. But you know what also sounded conspiratorial until a couple days ago? Everything that's come out with Einstein. Fine, I'll just say it, Epstein. Everything that's come out with Epstein. That all seemed conspiratorial. Now you're getting people who are like, I can't even believe that. Like, it's right in front of their face, and they're like, I still don't believe it. Again, this is why, in a large majority, and I hope I'm wrong on this, I really do. This is why I think America's cooked. Because you won't look at what's right in front of your face and make realistic, active judgments to take the next step forward and do the next thing to win. That's what's crazy to me. You just want to eat what you're being fed. You don't want to look at what it is. You don't want to any of that. You can analyze, do assessments. You can become great. I'm going to use this as an example because I like him. I don't know him, but I like him because I think he's awesome. And he's a great example of what you can do. And you can do this and what you can become. Chase Hughes. He's a big figure right now on the internet. And he doesn't have the same background as me. He literally taught this to himself. And I listen to his stuff. And I know a lot of stuff what he says is true. Because I've trained it. And I've trained in it. And then he went out and he got degrees and all sorts of different stuff in it as well. So he did all that. And he's self-taught. And he was self-teaching when he was in the Navy. They call him Navy Chief, but he trained all that himself. That means you can train yourself. You can train yourself how to analyze, assess, and not take everything at face value. And you can be amazing. You can be putting out amazing stuff like Chase Hughes. He puts out fantastic stuff. I'm sure he gets a lot of help, yes. That's why mine will struggle way more than his. Because not only am I learning, I'm at the beginning phases of YouTube, which is fine. You have to crawl, walk, run, everything. But I want to say, you can be the next Chase Hughes. So stand up and be the next Chase Hughes. Quit being fed everything and quit eating everything that they're trying to shove in your mouth. Because you're taking it. You're like, well, no, but it's a person I trust. Well, how do you know you trust her? Did you vet her? Did you dig into her background? Or did you just trust her because they told you to? I'm telling you, even if they have a good story with a good background, you can't trust anybody. Don't trust me. I'm telling you, don't trust me. Because it's not necessarily easy. Because if it was, then everybody would be doing it. But it's not necessarily hard either. And I'm not saying, again, I just don't trust everything coming out of there. And I'm not saying that she's not human and not infallible or anything like that. Because I'm a human who's made many mistakes in my life. It is what it is. The thing that I want to get across to you is test, but verify. Don't trust until you have proven that you can trust it. And it doesn't matter where it's coming from. I don't think a majority of you have tested what she is saying. You've just followed the crowd because we have this sheeple mindset. Don't be a sheeple. Be a leader. Don't follow the crowd because the crowd's going to run right off the edge of the cliff. And you have people behind you pushing because you're in the middle of the crowd and you're running with the people in front of you. People behind you are pushing and the people in front of you are running, so you got to run. When it comes time to stop before you guys run off the cliff, you can't stop because the people are pushing from behind. That's why I'm saying, don't be a sheeple in the crowd. Separate yourself.
They let him leave. But we have the police report. That confirms that Mitch Snow was there right where he says he was. Now, I will let you know that I personally called Mitch Snow. He was gracious enough to talk to me on the phone, and I grilled him for an hour on his story. And I can just give you my opinion. After speaking with him, I personally found him to be very credible. What is even more compelling is that more people have reached out to Candace Owens. She has reported that there are now potentially 2 more eyewitnesses that claim to have seen Erica Kirk on Fort Huachuca during that time period, although we still do not have confirmed statements yet. Investigative reporter George Webb went to the Candlewood Suites where Mitch Snow's.
Here's the Candlewood on Fort Huachuca. I don't want to take any pictures of the base, so I'm going to just kind of focus on the Candlewood here. But this is the area walking in, right? This is the turnaround area. I'll go real slow here, but there's the turnaround area. The 111 is just right over there. So, but here's the lobby area. And then they have a little breakfast bar area in here, right? And then a little sitting area. And then here's a nice little kind of breakfast area.
Okay. Do you see how small this hotel is? This is a pretty small lobby. This is not a case where Mitch Snow was seeing someone across a parking lot. Erica Kirk and Cabot Phillips would have been right there on the other side of the lobby. It is very reasonable that he got a good look at their face. George Webb then created a dance move called Doing the Wooka at Fort Huachuca.
They're doing the wooka. It's a sleight of hand, moving all the money through a shifting sand from the Candlewood Suites to the hill above. It's a fist of iron in a velvet glove. Yeah, they're doing the wooka. Keeping secrets tight while the drones are screaming in the middle of the night. Doing the wooka.
I never thought I would be saying this, but I am jealous of George Webb's dance moves. For the record, I have to say that Erica Kirk, Brian Harpel, and Cabot Phillips have all denied being at Fort Huachuca. However, they have all been unable to provide convincing evidence to support their alibis. Erica Kirk claims she was home cooking dinner. She cannot provide any information from her cell phone to back this up. Brian Harpel claims he was on a plane flight, but the flight information he has provided is for a flight that was booked, not a boarding pass, and for a flight that was 6 hours after the meeting.
I'll let him
A photo
fit.
of himself shopping at a grocery store for his alibi to show he was in Nashville. YouTuber Baron Coleman investigated the photo on his live stream with some concerns.
Now, admittedly, this is a weird photograph. A photograph like this lends itself to questions about whether it's legitimate. Here's why I say that. Have you ever met a grown man
Well, it is
testosterone
weird
coursing through
because
his
you
bones and body,
don't do that in the
who took a
store.
picture holding 4 balloons with his hand, I don't know if his pocket, I don't know what's going on here, but his hand in his pocket with this smile, this smug kind of smile. No grown man takes this photo.
I don't mind
Nobody.
taking a picture
can't
with
even think
balloons,
of a reason
but
you would take this
why
photo.
would you
I can't
take
even think
it
of a reason
right
you would
here
pause to
in
me
this
and pose for this photo.
situation?
You're in there and you're picking up balloons for a gender reveal for
I
your kid.
agree with this.
And you say, hold on. Will you please check this out? You grab my phone and take a picture of me real quickly. I want to memorialize buying balloons at the local Publix. But even if it's his girlfriend or his wife, or I think he's married, even if it's, obviously he's married, even if it's his wife, I've been married for 25 years. I've never had my wife take a photo of me checking out a grocery store, much less with that look on my face. I mean, period, end of story.
It does seem kind of strange. Then people pointed out that the magazine covers in the photo were for the wrong time period. Why does Cabot Phillips have behind him the wrong magazine in his alibi photo? Why can nobody corroborate their alibis? The identity of the congressperson remains unconfirmed, but it matches the flight data of a flight carrying a VIP.
Did we have someone double verify that? Just because someone pulled it up and pointed it out doesn't mean they couldn't have cropped some images out. So we need more than one verification on that, which is easy to do. Like, I won't even say that that's not easy and simple to do at all. So where I start to take an issue is, let's remember where we are. We're at 1408. Actually, first, let me show you an image of a police report. Does this look interesting? Does it look similar? It looks pretty identical, especially kind of everything that happened, except for I put it with a few different people in a different base up at Tucson about 20 minutes later. And I just made this up in 15 minutes. It would have been easier if I had a couple other things, but it's been a while since I've created some stuff. That's what I'm saying, is this stuff is easy to make. And showing us the executive portion of a report and nothing else to do with a report, well, that doesn't offer a whole lot of credibility. You got to show the full thing. And then if we want to go dig into it more, we can go dig into it more. We can go to the base and dig in a little bit more with it. So this was created in 15 minutes, and it's the same thing that was given about Fort Huachuca, except for it takes place up in Tucson at the Air Force Base. Seriously, I just created this in 15 minutes. The reason why I want to say that is because if you notice in the screenshot that they give, all right, see this? Just a screenshot of the executive summary. The reason why that's concerning, that's 3975, which is an old form. It's a form that the MPs don't use anymore. It's an old form that the MPs don't use anymore. A DA form 3975. That's why when you go search for it, you can't find it under any active Army publication directorate, which is where you find all your current forms. You don't find them under there. Why is that? Well, because the MP are using a different form nowadays for most of their stuff. Here is a 3946, which I gotta see which one this is again. Okay. This is a traffic incident report, which would explains itself. Traffic incident. It doesn't have an executive summary. Let me go over to, which one's this one? This really doesn't have anything to do with anything that would be an issue with police stopping you. So then what do they use? And we got one more here. This is basically for some incidents that involve a medical issue. Okay, so what would they use? They would use a sworn statement. This is what they use for the majority of their forms now. They did away with 3945, and I'm not going to stand 100% on that, but I'm pretty confident because I haven't talked to any of my MP buddies. So if I could go and talk to them, if I reached out, I would probably get that answer because I've looked around everywhere for it. It's not on the Army publication. So that's something we got to take into note. And, okay, so they use a sworn statement. That change, okay, what does that change? Well, if you see, there is no executive summary in a sworn statement. It has statements, and it'll say continued on some of them. But there is no executive summary. I would probably have to Google it to see which, because I know executive summaries do happen. I would probably have to Google it to see which form actually uses an executive summary, because I don't remember off the top of my head. But yes, this is what it would look like in, let's do a screenshot. This is what it would look like in an actual sworn statement. Boom. Okay, let's snip this out and open this up. This is probably what it should have looked like, or you could have just cut this top part out here and just had that. So the way it's in an executive summary form, it tells me, because remember, this guy says he's an old school SF guy. So he either didn't realize that there's a different form being used or wrote it into something. I'm not saying there might be a sliver of a chance that something happened to where there could potentially be an actual police statement out there with an executive summary with this written in it. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm just saying what the likelihood is of what I'm seeing right now is probably unlikely. And then I go back and I look at, let's pull up a map. Okay. Actually, and we can pull up his statement. We'll just use what I have written down here because I copied and this right into this. This is his report copied into what a sworn statement will look like. So he says the Southwest Border Missions Headquarters, 70525. So the problem with this is I can't physically go to Fort Huachuca right now because I don't live close. I worked the border for Army South, and I was the NCOIC running the border for them. However, when I look at that building number and we looked it up, it brought me to the Thunder Mountain Activity Center, where the pool is where we used to go swimming. You can't make this stuff up. That's why Valhalla has said, and I have said, like, hey, careful with this, Candace. You are potentially getting swindled because stuff doesn't add up. And I'm not even saying that this is the exact building number because I can't zoom in into Street View. It won't allow you to do that on military bases, which is a good thing. I could verify the building number in person in the amount of time that I spent there. Okay, so let's say he was at this building and he saw some activity here. Okay, and then you think, okay, well, maybe the police station is nearby. And the police station doesn't necessarily have to be nearby for stuff to happen, but the police station is all the way over here. And when you're actually in person, it's right here, next to the parade field. When you're actually in person, this stuff isn't as close as it looks on a map. It takes a minute for you to go from one place to one place. So, and then you got the police station over here. You got the supposed area where he saw people going in and out. And then the hotel is going to be where the medical center, I think that's the medical center. So this is the hotel. Stuff just doesn't seem to add up on that story. And then also with the form just looks really weird to me. There's inconsistencies in this form too. And these are all little things that you have to add up into it not making sense. Okay. So in this form, we have all this humbo jumbo in here. Oh, not to mention this guy right here, Chief Warrant Officer 2 Daniel Head. I can find most warrant officers. Granted, I don't have access to the global system, but I can find most warrant officers, even a lot of active ones, on LinkedIn. This guy, no one to this guy pops up at all. Yes, even in the intel side, we still have a lot of people who are on LinkedIn. So then we move down to right here. Everybody else, Sergeant McAllen, Officer, was that Johnston or something like that? See, there's too many inconsistencies. Even the person writing this report would notice this. Because you do Daniel Head with the rank afterwards in quotations with he's at the JTF. So why wouldn't we write all this stuff with them? And I guess we are kind of with their badge number, but we're not indicating which unit they're in. So that's an inconsistency. Then we come down here, and for some reason this guy's a chief, and it's capitalized. That's another inconsistency. But it doesn't say what kind of chief he is. Is he a CW2, CW3, CW4, CW5? Or is he an OW1? It just doesn't read right to me. And I'm not even saying the whole report doesn't, because it is written pretty much how an MP report would be written. And if this was a finalized report or if it was just a draft, because oftentimes a lot of MPs will make drafts and then before it's finalized, it will go through a review from their superiors for them to catch stuff. So there's no misspellings and stuff on the final drafts. So if this is an actual draft, you would expect to see some error, because a lot of these kids aren't proficient at writing until they get a little bit older and they've spent a lot longer in the career. So these are just the inconsistencies that I'm seeing on it. Not only this, like look at this. They're not even doing K9 the same way. They're doing K-09, and then they're doing K-9. I mean, that's literally right next to itself. So how many more things do we have to point out before I'm not believing this statement right here? We can look at the one I just created. Look, mine's more believable than that one. I have less errors in mine. Mine's more like a final draft. But also, yeah, that's a good point. Because it says at the end, this is a final report. So, which you would still put in a draft before it was reviewed. So I'm not saying that that's out of the realm of possibility either. Again, look at this. It's too easy to do this. And that's why myself, I know others have come out, Valhalla, whoever else came out and said, hey, look, this doesn't look right. Like, be careful with this. Don't get swindled. And from what we know about the guy, I wouldn't trust the stuff coming out either. Sure, I've said certain stuff about Candace, saying, hey, don't necessarily trust her background until you've fully vetted her. Seriously, don't. And know what to look out for and what to watch out for, because it's important. Because otherwise, you're just going to spend all this time in a form of theater, and you're going to be wasting your time looking at stuff that doesn't matter. Because this is a big situation, it does matter. It matters who we think may have killed Charlie. That whole situation matters. It's a big deal. It is a super big deal. And don't think that I'm against Candace looking into this, or I'm against anyone else looking into this, or I don't see the shadiness coming out of TPUSA and everywhere else. I completely see it all. But we can't let stuff muddy the water with garbage. This is what I have said a bazillion times. The way you build intel is you give anywhere from 80 to 99% truth. It depends on how big the lie is. The bigger the lie, the more truth you have to feed in before you can put the lie in. And then you have to do more than one lie or more than one sequence of lies. You have to build other stories, and then you have to put the lie in those stories as well, because you can't put every lie out there into one story. They have to come with different stories so it seems more true. But with every lie, there is anywhere from 80 to 95 to 99% truth. It just depends on what lie you're trying to put in. But you want a high percentage of truth. That way the lie is harder to detect. So let's go to Instagram. And let's watch this little clip. So, look, I don't agree with anything Alex Jones. Maybe the past couple years, he's definitely fallen off the deep end. Let's read this before we go into it. After Candace was caught red-handed, falsely claiming Congressman Mark Amati was a part of the secret TPUSA meeting at Fort Huachuca, she is now attempting to flip the script, releasing a blurred document that she claims proves her source was there on September 9th. So the thing I have is, first of all, that congressman being there, it would probably be an event to have a congressman come to a base, because it's a training base and a lot of different stuff happens. So it would be very noticeable, as well as what proof do we have that he was there? I'm not saying he was or wasn't. I don't really care either way. But also, what purpose would a secret meeting have at Fort Huachuca? Like, do you not think that people can't have secret meetings outside of a military base, outside of a skiff? Sure, you're not supposed to talk about certain stuff outside of it. Yeah, absolutely. But what do they have that's so secret that they would need to go to a military base? Unless you think the military's in on it. But I'm not there. I'm not even close to that. It's way more likely that it would be something else that you're thinking of. And I'm not going to specifically name it because I don't need to. It has 3 letters in it. You know exactly who I'm talking about. That's more likely. But also you have to look at what are the connections down there. Not only do you have agency connections down there, but you have Mossad, because they're always trying to collect on new kids coming up through the system. And we've known about this for years, and they've never done anything about it because they don't care. sadly. And I'm not saying it's the leadership within the military or the DoD that don't care. I'm saying above them don't care. Because they actually probably would, unless they were told not to.
Michael Snow, Mitch Snow, whatever his name is, was at Huachuca, according to this email she has here. And I have no doubt he wasn't, there walking around drooling or whatever he does. And the congressmen weren't. Now, they can argue, well, maybe that.
Well, it's funny. He's part of the media, and he's calling her a kook. I mean, he's a kook, especially now. He's even more kooky than when he was saying some stuff that people thought he was like crazy for, because a lot of what he said, what happened, they came out in certain files. But now he's just completely simped out. But he's telling you something with that. I wouldn't ignore that completely. I wouldn't buy 100% of it either. But they have to tell you stuff, just like Candace has told you. She said, hey, I'm a Mason. She's done Masonic hand symbols. She says she's a builder. She does all sorts of stuff has come out of their mouths. That's why, again, I'm not making any of this stuff up. I'm just literally showing it all to you. Don't get angry at me because they said stuff a certain way and stuff doesn't add up. And I'm not even saying everything that's coming out of her is a lie. And I'm not saying don't listen because it's a lie. What I'm saying is you have to decipher and vet all the information that comes out, and it doesn't matter who it comes from. So if you trust her, but still pay attention to when you have to vet some of the information, like the information that came out from this dude at Huachuca. It's just not adding up. And I'm not even saying throw it out. I'm saying put it on the shelf and see if something makes it make sense later on. And there's something to prove it. What I'm saying is, as a whole, I don't think it's a piece of credible information. But that doesn't mean down the road it's not going to be proven correct. It's yet to be proven correct. That's the problem. It's not all or nothing. The game of collecting intel and information, it's not all or nothing. And just because it doesn't add up now doesn't mean it won't add up later. But you don't want to follow the wrong rabbit holes, because you follow the wrong rabbit holes, you're never going to get to the end.
Security left early in the morning and, got there for his flight in Dallas at 1:40 something, but not with the congressman. Your people posted video of him in Congress at like 2:40 and said, oh, look, he could have got there. We have him at 11 a.m. on video giving speeches. That's 8 a.m. Huachuca. So he had 30 minutes to get to D.C.?
I mean, that's a valid point. There's also a valid point of should we trust video anymore? But there is a level to where you have to be like, well, I can't trust any video. I mean, you can't go crazy. But you also have to be able to pay attention in this day and age that stuff is easily made up. And stuff is easy to make, and you can make it quick. But when you do make it quick and you actually don't have the background for it, it's so much easier to make mistakes so people can point it out.
We're here with a major Tuesday evening breaking news alert. Candace Owens, who I've known for 10 years, been very supportive of, started putting out incredible claims in the last few weeks about Egyptian planes and about secret Huachuca military base meetings with
Notice I'm taking
for TPUSA,
a lot of what he says with a grain of salt, because he's going to say truth in what he's saying,
where they were planning,
but he's also going to be deceptive, because that's who he is now. He's a deceiver, more so than he's ever been.
In D.C. while he supposedly secret meeting, and there was the head of TPUSA security in Dallas and on flights. And I came out and said, hey, this isn't right. And she immediately said,
you see what he's doing right now? You see what he just did with her in the background? He's emotionally preparing you for her to be crazy, so he takes a little crazy clip of when she was trying to pull a joke and be funny about being crazy, and he takes that and he puts that in the background and he makes it play over and over and over again, like it's just continuously happening, when it was just a little 3 to 5 second clip. So I'm going to be fair to everybody. I'm here for the truth. I'm not here for sides and this and that. I'm here for the truth. That's all I'm here for.
Revealing himself. That's right. I'm revealing myself for simply going and doing the research. So when we presented the evidence today that the people she said were at Fort Huachuca weren't there. Well, I'd already predicted a few days ago. She came out and said, well, Mitch Snow, who has another name, he was there. We never doubted he was at a base. I go to Fort Hood today and claim I was in a secret meeting with Candace and 8 Martians and Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. And so there was a report where he showed up and acted all weird at the base, at least some.
Okay, he's not saying anything new. So, but I've been saying that for this duration of time. I didn't have my channel back then, and I wasn't sure that I was going to come out and do my channel. I wasn't sure it was the route I wanted to take, and I decided I wanted to, because once I go public, I can't ever do anything with my history and my past again. So it is what it is. You literally leave that life behind once you go out, because no one will take you anymore after that. It's sad, but it's true. It is what it is.
Wrong magazine in his alibi photo. Why can nobody corroborate their alibis? The identity of the congressperson remains unconfirmed, but it matches the flight data of a flight carrying a VIP passenger that left Fort Huachuca. This is your big...
It's true. Nobody can corroborate alibis. Their alibis. It's hard to corroborate alibis when you don't have certain systems. So the thing about it is, think about this. If old dude wasn't actually at Huachuca, but then he gave an alibi that was fake anyways with a fake itinerary, what else is he potentially covering up? That's what we should think about. Maybe he was there. I really don't know. All I'm saying is the information that I am seeing from that statement, that doesn't add up to me. I'm not even saying they couldn't be there. I don't understand why they would be there, because they don't need to be. But people have just gone off the deep end and being like, well, they're there. Well, okay, what are they going to be doing there? That's what I'm trying to understand it. So maybe if you can explain it to me, what are they doing there? Like, what happens there? What do you think happens there? I know what happens there for the most part. I don't know everything about what happens everywhere. I mean, that's crazy to say because nobody does. But I know for the most part what happens there.
Meeting right here. This is your big meeting at Fort Huachuca. I think I'm pronouncing that right. So this series of flights starts on September 7th, 3 days before the Charlie Kirk assassination, 2 days before the meeting in Fort Huachuca. It flies from Joint Base Andrews to Colorado Springs. It flies from Colorado Springs to Tucson. Again, this is close to Fort Huachuca. It flies from Tucson into presumably Fort Huachuca because it kills the transponder, but then the next day it's leaving Fort Huachuca. So whoever came in on this flight arrived probably, since Tucson's just a few minutes ago away, around 4:30 or 5 o'clock, the day before the big meeting. The flight call sign changes to Sam when there's a high-ranking government official on board. As soon as Candace Owens did the interview with Mitch Snow, people started losing their minds. This is how Alex Jones responded.
We're saying, like, I got an investigator now. I got a bad feeling. I didn't have a bad feeling. God gave me a good brain. I already knew. I dropped the ball. I apologize. She's a globalist agent. I dropped the ball and I failed you, and I'm sorry. I got to follow my gut every time. It's never wrong.
I wouldn't dismiss that 100%.
Threatening me and all their doxing of people and all that. You think that's going to make me go away? All you did was wake me up like a nuclear test site.
From stuff that she
so
said.
Just get your asses ready. Because you want a war. I want your war. I want it all. I want the doxing. I want the lies. I want the attacks. I'm going to take you on. Because you work for the deep state and the Democratic Party and the CIA and MI6, and I see your ass. So you just get ready.
I don't know if I'd go that deep, like as an agency.
This ain't my first rodeo.
I wouldn't go that deep. I'm just saying, I don't think I'd go there, but I wouldn't surprise me if she wasn't steered in a certain direction, like having a handler. And then that kind of brings up the whole stuff with Epstein. And I want to explain this. People say, oh, well, Epstein wasn't an official source. Okay, who cares? Well, we don't actually have paperwork on him at the agency, which there probably is, but they won't release it. But even if there wasn't, does that matter? That doesn't matter. You don't need paperwork on anybody to perform operations with them. You can do it without paperwork. I tell you, it 99.99% of the time, it always involves paperwork. It's just not released. But they come out and they say specific words like, he was not an asset. Okay, you're correct. He was not verbatim by what you considered a recruited asset. That's why they use terms the way they use them.
Doesn't that seem like a little bit of an overreaction?
But you're still running them.
All Candace Owens did was interview a veteran who saw Erica Kirk at Fort Huachuca. Why is Alex Jones losing his mind? I have to ask, did Alex Jones bother to pick up the phone and give Mitch Snow a call? Did he? Because he probably would have found out.
I don't care what Mitch Snow has to say. I'm not saying I wouldn't talk to him, but he's shown his credibility is very concerning. Like I said, I'm not saying I wouldn't talk to him, but I have put him in the ballpark of, unless he proves otherwise, he's not credible to me.
That there are some strange things going on at Fort Huachuca. Alex Jones and others across the internet began viciously attacking Mitch Snow. He has a bitter ex-wife who came out with statements that Mitch Snow is a liar and cannot be trusted.
The guy's a psycho. The guy's a liar. And we've proven it.
So I might have to go back and look at Valhalla and see if when they came out with Mitch Snow stuff about him being a Green Beret, see what his actual MOS was. Because he may have never, ever been to Fort Huachuca in his career.
And credibility matters in this for all the things that I laid out earlier. It doesn't matter if he was
And
there.
this guy's a tool.
I'm going to bring Lene on here. So, Lene, first of all, welcome
I
to the
don't
show.
hate him, but
I'm sorry that you have to
he's
relive some of
simping
these
so
things.
hard that it's just,
It makes me mad.
it's so
I woke
hard
up
to
next morning
take
and started
anything he
screaming
says
at me all over
credibly.
again. Threw me down on the couch at one point and was like just grabbing handfuls of my hair and using it to shake my head back and forth, and again going off on how he was going to bury me alive in the desert. And that time he also added he was going to kick me in.
You'll see this. Some people just, there's too many people out there who are like money, money, money. And like, they're not trying to seek the truth. They're trying to, whatever gets ratings from money. And it's happening way more than you think. And why do you think some of the people are the most popular that are out there? You're getting a percentage of truth with them, but you're also getting a lot of deception with them. And you have to be aware of it. Anyone that's inorganic, someone who blows up overnight, and it's possible if you got onto a popular topic, it's possible to blow up. I say, Valhalla's blow up, because I've been watching him since he was a baby YouTuber. The way he blew up with some popular topics, that's organic. Some of the others that are out there, not really organic.
The river and see if he could swim. Those were his words. And at the time we lived literally right across the street from the river.
Now, I've never been married, so I don't know what it's like to have a bitter ex-wife. But if you have experience dealing with a bitter ex-wife, let me know in the comments down below, because I'm curious. Can we trust the word of a bitter ex-wife?
We don't need to debunk his testimony. What I will say is that his entire testimony rides on his credibility, and that's really important. With that being said, what really should be taking place is that we should be provided proof that any of these things actually happened. If you want to say that Brian Harpole was there, then give us some proof that Brian Harpole was there. If you want to say that Eric Kirk was there, give us some proof that Eric Kirk was here. It is not on the people that are being accused to provide proof of their innocence. That's not how this works. That's not how it's supposed to work, and it's ridiculous on its face. But with that being said, Candace decided to bring this person on who is a serial woman abuser, who is a serial manipulator, who has victimized children, has victimized people time and time and time again. And the pattern is clear, and there's court records that document all this stuff. And, you know, it's just unbelievable that she didn't do a better job vetting this person. We shouldn't even be here to begin with, because that's what should have been done. It was on her to vet this person. We shouldn't have to be here debunking his story or challenging his credibility. But I think since we are here, this is the situation that we've been given. That's what we have to do. And I think it's really important for all the people out there defending him that you hear directly from his victims. And that's what we're going to do today. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Candace Graychick and Aaron Massey. So ladies, thank you for having the courage to come on. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and welcome to the show.
He's full of crap. He's a manipulative, coercive liar. He's been abusing women for a long time. But for me specifically, he gave me a TBI. You know, I have in text messages, him admitting to punching me in the face the night he gave me a TBI, okay, and December 4th of 22. It's just, he's a horrible, serial, abusive person.
I think that Candace Owens correctly referred to the allegations as baby mama drama. I don't understand the big deal. Is it really our business if Mitch Snow is popular with the ladies? Even if he does have baby mama drama.
Okay, dude. This is a statement I'm going to have to disagree with you on. Kind of dismissing the possibility of him smacking women around as lady drama. That's way different. That's kind of a dick thing to say.
What does that have to do with whether he saw Erica Kirk at Fort Huachuca? Do you know who else has baby mama drama? Elon Musk.
Well, see, this is where he doesn't understand investigation clearly, because it has everything to do. If you have already a shady credibility, then of course it has everything to do with it. That's stuff as an investigator I'm going to look at 110%. Right now, I'm not going to draw anything or any conclusions off of it because I don't know. I don't have any of that information. And I would have to go get the information. And not only that, I'd have to perform sit-down face-to-faces with these people to let that affect me in how I think about it credibly. But it has everything to do with it. As someone, wolves in finance, come on, dude. As someone who digs into, that's almost like saying, like, what do numbers have to do with any sort of fraud? That's just an asinine statement. Come on, dude. You know better than this, but it's clear, man. It is clear. It has everything to do with credibility.
Elon Musk has a lot of baby mama drama. Did that stop anyone from letting him be the head of Doge? No. No one had a problem with Elon Musk running Doge because of his baby mama drama. I do not understand why people will not listen to Mitch Snow. Then people started noticing a lot of other connections between the
It's not the baby mama drama why people don't want to listen to him. It's because of all the other crap.
people at Turning Point and Fort Huachuca. An account on X.com named Project Constitution has done a great job of investigating this information. For instance, the person who interrogated Mitch Snow was Captain Adam Neff. This is the cousin of Blake Neff at Turning Point. Turning Point's head of PR, Andrew Colvette, has a brother in the military named Robert Colvette. He is the business manager for U.S. Army NETCOM, headquartered at Fort Huachuca. Andrew Colvette has another brother in the military named Lieutenant Colonel Kirk Colvette, who does annual training at Fort Huachuca. This is so outrageous, because in the text message that was leaked from Andrew Colvette, he tries to give Erica an alibi by saying, LOL, Erica wasn't in some fort in Tucson.
We need to rewind that. And let me make one thing clear. There is no such thing as annual training at Fort Huachuca. If you're stationed there, your unit does annual training, but there's no annual training. You go, maybe you're like, oh yeah, the past 3 years I've gone every year for a course, but it's a different course every time.
Investigating this information. For instance, the person who interrogated Mitch Snow was Captain Adam Neff.
We might have to dig into this a little.
This is the cousin of Blake Neff at Turning Point. Turning Point's head of PR, Andrew Colvette, has a brother in the military named Robert Colvette. He is the business manager at Turning Point. Turning Point's head of PR in the military named Robert Colvette. He is the business manager for U.S. Army NETCOM, headquartered at Fort Huachuca. Andrew Colvette has another brother in the
Okay, maybe. I'll have to look into that.
military named Lieutenant Colonel Kirk Colvette, who does annual training at Fort Huachuca. This is so outrageous, because in the text message that was leaked from Andrew Colvette,
Yeah, a lot
he
of
tried to give Erica
families
an alibi
have
by
a
saying,
lot of people in the
LOL,
military.
Erica wasn't in some fort in Tucson. If Andrew Colvette has two brothers who are regularly at
So what we're doing is, with all that, I mean, like I said, it's possible. Not even saying a lot of it isn't possible. It's easy to bring receipts on all this, though.
Fort Huachuca, he knows exactly what it is. It's not some fort in Tucson. Why is he pretending like he does not know what Fort Huachuca is? That is a lie. And we've been catching these people at Turning Point in a lot of lies.
Well, okay. Wolves in Finance, what is Fort Huachuca? Explain it to me. A man who's been there, trained there, lived there for at least 3 years of my life, if not more. Explain to me what Fort Huachuca is. And I'll be honest with you. I will tell you everything I know about it. Because I've studied the base in more ways than most people. But a lot of people in my line of work have studied the base like that. Explain it to me. I'm here to listen. Like, I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to concede stuff to you. Like, I'm not saying I'm right in any of it. All I am saying is we need to think about this stuff more clearly. And without a guise of, well, this person is 100% right and this person's 100% right. Look into it all. Don't trust one person 100%.
This is supposed to be an organization with Christian values. Why do they lie all the time?
Well, we know they don't have Christian values. I mean, it is what it is. They've proven that.
Very Christian-like to me. But it gets worse, because Brian Harpole has offices for his security company right outside the front gate for Fort Huachuca. Here's an explanation from George Webb, who actually went down there to check it out.
That's a possibility.
And this is where Brian Harpole's security company is, ISS, Integrated Security. This is the one that was following Charlie all those times and so forth, because they're learning how to do all that stuff right here at this gate at Fort Huachuca, right here. Here's the health club that supposedly went out of business and then was a banquet room, and now it's a health club again. Excuse me, it's it's right there. So you can recruit here at the health club. Also right there's the Calvary Church. So you can recruit at church or at Takimaki. These are three. Harpole's security is right in the middle of all of it.
It is literally right in front of the gate to Fort Huachuca.
Okay, well, no, that's not literally in front of the gate. There's actually quite a bit of stuff between. Let's go back. All right. So the gate is here down here on this side. There's a lot of stuff between here and there. Oh, I know, because I used to eat at Old Filiberto's a lot, which is really good, by the way. If you go down there, I would get some breakfast tacos there. So with that said, okay, and like I've said before, it's highly possible that they were there. It's highly possible that they've been there many times. We know she's done training videos and so on. So, like I said, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But, okay, so let's say it is true. Well, I have questions about the actual police report, because that's a mess. That's something else completely different in itself. And why would a Green Beret act crazy? Because some of the stuff that he's literally talking about is how we would portray someone who's a crazy person in a lot of ways. Whether you be a Green Beret from the 80s or not, why would you go the route of seeming like you're off your rocker? And then you have normal conversations when it comes to other Green Berets. It looks like he's playing a mind game on us almost. If you pay attention to some of the interviews he's done, and then when he got caught talking to, was it Paramount Tactical, whatever that dude's name is, completely normal conversation. So it's either he's got something severely wrong with him mentally, or he's playing games. I don't know. That's just my assessment on that. But, okay, let's finish this thought. What does it matter if they're on Fort Huachuca or not? That's what I'm trying to honestly understand. What does it matter? A lot of people go on and off that base all day long. And you're saying, okay, well, how's it tied to the Charlie Kirk stuff? I'm open to looking for stuff with active open ties. But to think that it came from a military base like Huachuca, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm not seeing it right now. Especially when you have Candace trying to tie it to the New Jersey of the Middle East. So if we're doing that, because they're not actively pursuing missions or actually doing missions on Fort Huachuca, unless stuff has changed since I've been in. I mean, it's been 10 years, so who knows? I mean, the state of our government the past 10, 15 years, I mean, who knows? I honestly wouldn't be surprised by anything anymore.
Harpole's security is right in the middle of all of it.
It is
But I do
literally
doubt it.
right in front of the gate to Fort Huachuca. Then it turns out that Erica Kirk starred in a movie that was never released that was filmed at Fort Huachuca. Erica's mother, Lori Franz-Fay, runs multiple companies involved in Department of Defense work, specifically with technology with ties to Fort Huachuca. So let's go through all of this. Blake Neff and...
Again, I get it. And I've never said that it's not in the realm of possibility that they were at Fort Huachuca. Okay, but why? And for what reason? Because what do you think Fort Huachuca is?
Andrew Colvette, Brian Harpole, Erica Kirk, and Lori Franz-Fay all have ties to Fort Huachuca. Can we just stop here for a moment? Can we all stop pretending that this is normal? There is nothing normal about this. You are telling me that this nonprofit organization has all these people in leadership with relationships with the military. But not just the military in general, this one specific force.
That's actually pretty common, dude. I know because you're on the outside, you don't see it, but families go into the military and build in a lot. Then people they know how a lot of the contracting stuff works, so it's not too hard for them to get out and build contracting businesses. And I'm not even saying all of them are legit. I'm not saying that at all. Because there are legit ones in stuff that, is questionable. But that's really common. So what are you trying to get out here? Again, these are all common things that you just don't understand, and you're trying to build stuff onto them. You're trying to put stuff onto the narrative that doesn't make any sense because what you're trying to say doesn't exist. I get it. It looks different and it looks odd to you, but that's really common.
In Arizona. Fort Huachuca is special because it is a location the Army trains people in intelligence work. They train
Exactly what I've been saying. Where do you think I got all my training?
people to work undercover. So why do all these people at Turning Point have...
No. Not at all. Not even close. It does not train people to work undercover. Even people who are in my field do not get trained to work undercover. That doesn't happen. Stuff like that happens in specific specialized courses. It is not given to everybody. They are specific courses that you have to be chosen for from your units to go out and do. And I know that for a specific reason. Again, you're being fooled by the hyperbolic language that they're using. They're trying to ramp your excitement up. And they're using words like everybody, this is where they train this. When it's only 1 in 1,000 people that go through that gate that might get that training. And most of the high quality training like that doesn't even happen there. Again, because a lot of people don't know how it all works. They don't know the significance of it.
Have ties to Fort Huachuca, and why were several of them seen there in the 2 days leading up to Charlie?
Again, I guarantee you none of those people that were shown and those connections, the only one who might have gotten some training like that is old dude, what's his face? I forget his name. The old dude that made the statement about the MPs. That's the only dude out of all those who might have got training like that. None of the others would have.
Kirk's assassination. This is not normal for a nonprofit organization. Let me explain how the military is structured, because it is helpful to understand what is going on. In the intelligence community, you have the national agencies like the CIA, but each branch of the military also...
The only way any of those folks would is if we don't know that there was some sort of agency. That's the only way they would get training there, outside of being military in a specific MOS. That's the only other way.
has their own intelligence people. In the Army, there was the 110th Military Intelligence Brigade and the 111th Military Intelligence Brigade. Military intelligence includes espionage or being a spy. The 111th is headquartered at Fort Huachuca in Arizona. They are a training-focused brigade. They operate what they call the U.S. Army Intelligence Center of Excellence. This is where the subject matter experts work, and people go there to learn how to be a spy. The 110th Military Intelligence Brigade was formerly headquartered at Fort Drum in New York. The 110th Military Intelligence was focused on operations and deployments. So people in the Army would get trained by the 111th and then do operations as part of the 110th. Mitch Snow used to be part of the 110th. Many years ago, he was stationed at Fort Huachuca as part of a joint task force to help secure the border. He was the person who found underground tunnels that cartels were using to smuggle drugs into the country. The 110th was inactivated in 2004. The staff was absorbed into the 10th Mountain Division, which remains headquartered at Fort Drum. Then in March, 10th was inactivated at the border. He was the person who found underground tunnels that cartels were using to smuggle drugs into the country. The 110th was inactivated in 2004. The staff was absorbed into the 10th Mountain Division, which remains headquartered at Fort Drum. Then in March 2025, 500 soldiers from the 10th Mountain Division were sent to Fort Huachuca to participate in the newly formed Joint Task Force Southern Border. This is the same thing that happened with Mitch Snow all those years ago. History is repeating itself.
See, I have to go check that out. I haven't looked into that portion of it.
When Donald Trump won the election in 2024, he promised to secure the border. The military has been helping in this effort. January 2024, Donald Trump takes office. March 2024, the Joint Task Force Southern Border was established. The headquarters for the Joint Task Force Southern Border was Fort Huachuca, Arizona. There was a major money aspect to all of this. Congress sets the budget for the Department of Defense overall, but
Again, I'm trying to struggle to see the overall significance.
within that budget, Arizona 2024, the Joint Task Force Southern Border was established. The headquarters for the Joint Task Force Southern Border was Fort Huachuca, Arizona. There was a major money aspect to all of this. Congress sets the budget for the Department of Defense overall, but within that budget, the military can move money between departments to respond to the priorities of the president. We saw this happen after Donald Trump took office. Here's one example from May 2025. This is called a reprogramming action. They are reprogramming money from one department to another. Here we see $447 million transferred because DHS is requesting Department of Defense support for detention operations for illegal alien removal. This money was taken from the Navy's Capital Fund. And there are more orders like this. Here's another example.
Facilities, sustainment, restoration, and modernization. That's the fund where money for barracks maintenance and upgrades come from. Upgrades that the government identified as crucial back in 2023 after a scathing report
Yeah, we know they don't use this at all.
identified unsafe and unsanitary conditions in barracks around the country. WSAB reported
If we looked
exclusively on
into
some of
the
the poor
fraud
conditions in the
behind
barracks
that,
around Fort
that would
Stewart.
be outstanding.
Now the Pentagon is taking $1 billion of that money away to fund sending more troops to the southern border.
Issues with like washing machines not working, mold, stuff like that. AC is going out and it's Fort Stewart, so that happening in the middle of the summer is brutal, especially when you've been outside all day in the heat working. Like kind of go back to this, old mantra of the military of like, oh, we just have to suffer the whole time. It's just kind of, it's disappointing and disheartening, especially when we kind of saw some progress moving forward to go away from.
So on this, though, we need to hold these companies that come in and they spend maybe 1% to maybe 10% of the money on actually the housing stuff. We just need to fix that overall. Because there's a reason why a lot of it doesn't happen and soldiers get screwed. It's because of the outside companies that come in. Again, because a lot of these people were in military before, they knew how to work the system, so they worked it and they did it. And they always do the bare minimum. They don't show up on time, or you have a 30-day window, they'll show up on day 29 or 30. Stuff like that happens all the time, all over the military.
It doesn't matter whether it comes back or not. There's still going to be backlog and there's still going to be expenses that pile up. So at the end of the day, you're just kind of digging a deeper hole. It's a complicated situation, but the answer is not taking such a large amount of funding away from bettering the lives of our service members to push it toward this other issue.
Just look at this photo here. This is black mold in the walls of the barracks that our military is living in. This is disgusting. But the military has priorities, and right now...
That's all over the place. But that's nothing new to them standing up and doing border operations right now. This isn't a new problem. Come on, dude. This problem has been there since I was in. And since I started 20-something years ago, and even before me, again, it's because of the companies. We don't hold them accountable. That's the problem. And we don't say, hey, you have to spend this percentage of cash we infuse into you back into the maintenance of the barracks and so on.
The border is the priority. So far, between $1 to $2 billion has been reprogrammed to support efforts at the border. A large portion of this money is flowing into the Joint Task Force Southern Border headquartered at Fort Huachuca. Who better to explain what a Joint Task Force is than Andrew Colvette's brother, Robert Colvette?
So as far as a joint exercise goes, let's face it, the future of the military is going to be joint. If we want to succeed against our near-peer enemies, then joint is going to be a requirement so that all the assets we have and capabilities across.
This isn't Huachuca. This is likely the airbase up in Tucson.
The services and use them together in an exercise is better than the first time we do it in country.
So he might not even be at
coming together
Huachuca.
to work on a unified mission. In this case, the southern border. So Fort Huachuca is suddenly flush with
Yep,
money.
those are
They have
real.
all these new soldiers that are going to be stationed there. So they've been taking all these old buildings and they're repurposing them for expanded operations. This is exactly what Mitch Snow described. The morning of September 9th, the day before Charlie Kirk was murdered, Mitch was looking for where he could get his old paperwork. He was getting coffee, and he ran into soldiers he recognized as being from his old unit, the 10th Mountain Division. They talked, he bought them coffee, and they explained to Mitch that he should go to the temporary headquarters for the Joint Task Force Southern Border. They gave him directions. Then Mitch Snow went to the guard gate at Fort Huachuca, and as they were checking his ID, he asked them directions on how to get to the temporary headquarters for the Joint Task Force Southern Border. I'm emphasizing this because the building that the meeting took place in with Brian Harpole, Cabot Phillips, and the congressman and all those lieutenant colonels was the temporary headquarters for the Joint Task Force Southern Border. Captain Neff, who's the cousin of Blake Neff, is the Force Protection Commander, which is a subunit assigned to the Joint Task Force Southern Border. Here's what I believe is happening, allegedly. It looks to me like someone in the military diverted funds meant for the Southern Border and used that money to assassinate Charlie Kirk.
So I do want to pause that and say, okay, so there is that possibility that that old center with the pool could be used for that.
But even if we assume that the military was not involved in the murder, it seems like they were doing something with Turning Point. Allegedly, they're having this meeting with all these people from Turning Point. But the problem is that all these military people are under orders to use their resources for this.
Until we can prove the military had a meeting with Turning Point or these people from Turning Point, these are just blind allegations. Like, get some proof, man. Get some proof. Like, this is what's bugging me. Because we're throwing that out there, and then everybody's just assuming that Huachuca is this nasty, evil place. And if they actually did move border operations there temporarily while Trump came in, I mean, that can change stuff up. But I don't see how that would have anything to do with everything we've been discussing. The topic is just completely different. I don't see it.
Southern border. Why are they spending resources on Turning Point? And remember, this was money that was taken from soldiers who are living in barracks filled with black mold. They are living in filth so that the money could go to the southern border. And now we are learning that may not be the case. This would be misappropriation of funds. And from the scale of the operation, it looks like.
Okay. But they're misappropriating funds at every base across the nation because this stuff exists at every base across the nation. I get what you're getting at, and I actually support what you're getting at, that they need to do a better job of taking care of the barracks. We've been saying this for the past 10, 15, 20 years. We have literally been calling this out, dude. So what are you saying that's not new to us, that have been in, that we've been posting online about? There are forums online where you can go find this stuff. People post stuff daily, weekly about it. Again, what are you getting at? And like, I'm all for this digging into the fraud because we need to. And like I've said before, if you dig anywhere, you can find something that looks fraudulent or is fraudulent, or at least gives the appearance of fraud, or is ethically wrong or immoral. You can find that everywhere.
Like a lot of money. Not only would it be misappropriation, they would be using the money to influence U.S. elections through Turning Point. This is taxpayer dollars.
In a large way, didn't TPUSA influence the last election? Okay, yeah.
When you get taxes taken out of your paycheck, do you think it is fair if the government uses your money to assassinate American citizens? Especially if they told you that they were going to use the money for the southern border. If anyone in the military is involved, American citizens, they would be using the money to influence U.S. elections through Turning Point. This is taxpayer dollars. When you get taxes taken out of your paycheck, do you think it is fair if the government uses your money to assassinate American citizens?
Where's the connection to this? Where can you, like, look for it I'm not telling you to stop investigating. Look for it. But I wouldn't put that out over the internet right now because you don't have anything pointing at it. You're literally just, you're saying, well, this money's going here, and so we know that this happened. You have no proof of what that money did, where it went, and you have no proof it's actually being spent fraudulent. Go dig and find it, man. Don't put these allegations out like this. This is sloppy, sloppy work.
Especially if they told you that they were going to use the money for the southern border. If anyone in the military is involved in this, it could result in dishonorable discharge.
The military can reallocate funds. It just has to come from a high enough authority.
They would have to pay back all the money and spend 10 years in prison. If they were also involved in murder, the sentence would be even longer. One of the reasons why Mitch Snow's story is so compelling is the way that he describes Erica Kirk.
The one thing I noticed about the woman that really stuck out to me was her eyes. And I have an ex that has caused me a lot of problems. So when I see someone with striking blue eyes like that, they stick out. And I was on the phone with my wife here, and I even told her about it. I said, "Oh, geez, somebody has those kind of eyes." It creeped me out a little bit, and it had nothing to do with that person. Just, life is what it is.
He says that Erica Kirk has unique eyes. There's something strange about her eyes. In fact, he describes it as, "It creeped me out." Mitch is not the only person who has noticed this. People have started making memes about Erica Kirk's eyes.
Yeah, but there are many. So if you ran across a person with those eyes, there's a high likelihood you would actually forget the actual dimensions of their face. There's entire studies on this. This is why we actually train on this, because we even do training to try to remember faces the best that we can, even as a human collector, because even we get stuff wrong, and stuff's wrong all the time, between even a minute to a couple minutes to days after. You get stuff completely wrong, and your memory, even though you think you got a clear picture of it, is completely different. Again, this is why you can't rely on one testimony when it comes to police reports and stuff like that, because the mind plays weird games. So if you saw someone with very similar eyes that kind of creeped him out like that, everything else could be washed away because of that one huge attribute that he noticed. Everything else can be filled in by his brain. I mean, it's not nothing. You got to go do the research on that, because it is a high likelihood that something like that happened. And again, I'm not saying it's not in the realm of possibility with where they are. TPUSA is in Arizona. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they're there. And even if they are, again, I'm still struggling to see why it matters. So we need to figure out why. And you can come out and say, the reason why I think this matters is because I think that this meeting had something to do in this area, and this is what we want to find out more about. But you're just coming out shouting, Fort Huachuca, Fort Huachuca. Like, okay, what does it have to do with anything? Seriously, just specify what you think it has to do with it, instead of giving us some sort of theatrical overplay of the entire situation. Because that's all it is right now. All it is from both sides has been a lot of theater. And we need to fix that. That's not okay. I'm not okay with everything seeming like theater. I'm not okay with the acting backgrounds of a lot of these folks. And then we're supposed to take them serious because of their background? Really?
We did what we usually did before tours. We said our prayer, and we asked the Lord to protect us, and we asked the Lord that His will be done. That's what we did.
At one time, an employee of Turning Point, she has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she's making a huge amount of money on it. She's building her business. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies amount of money on it? She's building her business. An employee of Turning Point, she has been one of the main peddlers.
I do want to note this. If she looked like this, I would give it to him and say, hey, this whole getup and just the way everything is would be extremely hard to forget, because it looks very like the exorcism type movies. So if it was something like this, I will say, hey, it's actually highly possible that he did see that and he remembered it. Because this right here would be virtually impossible to forget, at least for a couple days.
Of these conspiracies, and she's making a huge amount of money on it. She's building her business. business. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. What I am doing is releasing myself from the enemy's hands, where he could have a foothold in me.
But also wanting justice for them here on earth?
No, of course. But we serve a just God, and I rest easy.
We have to remember with this, though, they're adding in the music to make it seem, and they're pausing, replaying. Again, the theater of this drives me nuts, because what it's supposed to do is rise your emotions and rise fear up in you. And then either, oh, I trust this person 100%, or I trust this 100%. And it's getting the emotions out of you. It's playing on your emotions exactly the way that they want it to play on your emotions. Stop allowing your emotions to be played.
He's sovereign, but he's just. And so let the Lord handle that.
But it gets even crazier. There's a drag queen who's also been commenting about this. Now, I apologize in advance for forcing you to watch a drag queen, but this is important. This is a man wearing women's clothes pretending to be Erica Kirk.
On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do."
See how easily that can be mimicked? So if you came across that, you might forget everything else. Unless, like I said, that black outfit she had on was kind of unique. It would be hard to forget that entire thing. Again, we don't have a full description of that. We don't have an understanding of that.
Here is the point. Mitch Snow is not the only person saying that Erica Kirk has unique eyes. Even the gays are noticing this. Let me know in the comments if you agree with Mitch Snow that there is something unique about her eyes. There's one other interesting connection that I want to bring up. In my previous videos, I discussed an Arizona state senator named Jake Hoffman. He allegedly runs a marketing business out of a UPS store mailbox where Turning Point pays him millions of dollars. Something has always bothered me about this. His business is called 110 LLC. Does anybody else find that strange? I find it very unusual that you would call a marketing company 110 LLC. Obviously, it's referencing something, but what? Is it possible that 110 LLC is a secret code name referencing the 110th Military Intelligence Brigade that was performing operations out of Fort Huachuca? I think that Jake Hoffman needs to explain to all of us how he came up with the name 110 LLC. And it better be a good explanation, because there are way too many coincidences going on. To be fair, there is not enough evidence here to definitively say that anyone has committed a crime, but there are certainly a lot of red flags. I feel that we need a full audit of the funds at Fort Huachuca. Is all the money really being spent on the southern border? To be honest, I think that Donald Trump should cancel all funding for Fort Huachuca, because if this is the US Army's intelligence center of excellence, I am pretty concerned. It doesn't seem like they're doing a very good job. Isn't intelligence work supposed to be undercover? Aren't they supposed to be flying under the radar? I'm asking.
See, again, man who has no understanding of what the actual mission set is. Also, to call for the complete cancellation of funds of that would be devastating to the country. Just going to point it out. So unless you want to literally take everything out, like go ahead and request for that. But you don't understand the mission set. That's why. Should there be maybe an account for the new border mission that opened up? Yeah. I mean, there's a possibility that should be looked at. Again, it's all or nothing. You're assuming that everyone there is a spy. And that's not the way it works, dude. That's not the way it works at all. None of our training is classified, with exception to very few things. And we train a lot of foreign militaries, even, on a lot of stuff that we do, with exception to some of the classified stuff that we do. We do share some classified stuff with different Five Eyes and stuff like that. But to assume everything is secret there is just crazy to me. That tells me that you're missing the mark. That's why I say you have to look at everything, because I can't take what he's saying seriously. He has a few really good points. Absolutely. But he's so extreme with it that he's throwing almost everything out. Like, he's ruining his own credibility with some of the way he's saying some of the stuff. And I get it. It looks weird to an outsider, but get someone who's on the inside to be like, hey, dude, calm down on this. You don't need to be so crazy with it. Yes, there's stuff going there. Stuff is happening there. Some stuff is secret that people don't get to know about, and only a select few soldiers get to go do that training, and so on. But that's just the certain career paths that they're on. It doesn't mean anything nefarious. Again, because I understand it, I don't understand what you think is happening there. There could be something crazy and nefarious with the new border mission that's working out of there. I don't know. I have worked the border mission before, and it's often not what you think it is. Nowadays, I don't know. It would look a whole lot different, but I don't understand what you think is happening. You also don't understand that if there is a border mission, and this border mission is funded a certain amount, that has nothing to do with the soldiers living in moldy barracks, because that money to fix those barracks comes from a different pot. Often it doesn't come from the same pot of money. The government allocates in different ways for different mission sets. We separate everything to where, all right, this is building management. Building management gets its own set of funds. All right, Intel gets a set of funds, but then that'll change when you move from base to base. Everything has its own set of unique funds. So all the money that's allocated to work towards the border doesn't have anything to do with the living conditions. It's just the way it works. Unless they allocated something in, unless there's allotments that are in there, I don't know that there are. I don't know either way. I don't know anything about it. But again, it's because you don't understand the way things work behind everything that you're making assumptions that are kind of crazy. And I like the crazy. I live for the crazy. That's why I enjoy the job that I had. And that's why I enjoyed it thoroughly. But there's a point where you're going so hard the other direction, it almost seems like a deception. And it's almost getting to that point to where this is starting to feel like a deception in the opposite direction. I'm just going to throw that out there, because the more we push this in a sense to where it doesn't make sense, the more it feels like a hoodwink or a deception.
Because the whole world is talking about Fort Huachuca. It does not seem like they're very undercover. If this is their center of excellence, the whole thing seems like a giant waste of money. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think they should do an audit of Fort Huachuca?
No, it's never been a secret, dude. Welcome to the real world. It's 2026. Where have you been? Have you been hiding under a rock? Show me which rock. I want to go hide under it.
Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. If you want to support independent journalism like this channel, consider signing up for a membership on my website.
I will tell you this much. There's a lot I disagreed with you there, man. But I'm still going to stay subscribed. I'm not going to unsubscribe to you. Because I understand there's a lot you don't understand about it. And that's okay. Like, no one knows everything. And that's why we're all here, is to, like, point out the crazy things. But we're also here to hold each other accountable. And when we're going off the deep end, going way too crazy in one direction, we have to call it out. And just because we're calling it out doesn't mean that we disagree with everything that you're saying or disagree with you completely. Like, that's where I feel we've gotten cooked as a modern generation, is that someone gets called out for something and they're immediately on the other side. To begin with, why are there sides? We either love our country and believe in this country and want what's best for it, or you don't. You're either with us or against us. And there's no sides within the country. There really isn't. That's a false narrative put out to divide and make the country fall apart. There is no sides. We're all American. We're all equal. What I'm here to do is to point out the stuff that doesn't look correct so we can correct it and start going in the right directions. There could be something to, maybe they were at Fort Huachuca. There could be something to that. But what I'm saying is the information I'm seeing so far, it's very shaky. It doesn't have any substance to it. We need to get something with substance. With all the geo-tracking that people have been doing, because all this stuff is out there now. With all the geo-tracking people have been doing, we haven't used it once on any of these individuals. People online are geo-tracking like crazy with all sorts of different events. And for some reason, no one can geo-track these folks? Like, that's weird to me. It's just come out with something substantial. But that's all I got for y'all today. I appreciate y'all for watching Tradecraft for Life. Y'all have a good one, and I can't wait to see the comments on this one.